It's crazy.
Did you hear our expert said that Lollapalooza was not a super spreader event, right? They came out and they said Lollapalooza, no, there's no evidence it was a super spreader event, but you know what is? Your family barbecue, your
Right?
daughter's birthday party. Those are the super spreader events.
The dumbed down information.
No getting together with people when you can actually hold a conversation you can hear.
I know.
Yeah.
So actually, that's one of the things, way back in the day, Revolutionary War time, where they would shut down the pubs, the restaurants. One of the things that they would make sure is you couldn't gather and talk. So these will be shut down, right? Like some of this eventually, if I don't know how Zoom is going to be start monitoring what's being talked about, but eventually
They're
these will be
already
shut down.
listening to us.
Yeah.
The way I feel about all these
California are you
platforms.
guys in? Because
What's that?
isn't like San Francisco making it so that only vaccinated can go in the restaurants and bars and gyms and shit now? Or am I wrong? There's some part of California
I'm not
that's
sure.
mandated it.
They were saying something like that, but they haven't enforced it. Because at my restaurant, like I had the health inspector come in one day. They're always like try to act all intimidating or whatever the hell, like, but he was like telling me, he literally said in front of me and my boss before they put that new rule, like you need to check the vaccine cards. And he said that he told my boss that she could take her mask off because she was vaccinated and told me I had to keep mine on right in front of me, like this whole thing. I'm fine with it, but I know that this is happening to other people in other places. They're getting that kind of pressure and ridicule. I could feel it and everything. It's just this very
that right
oppressive.
there was medical discrimination. And
I know it's crazy, but we're supposed to be checking or something, but it's not really enforced. Like he said it himself. He's like, we're not going to pressure anybody to check, but you should be checking. Like,
and in New York, like it's New York too. Yeah, there's a piece of California and then New York. You have to be vaccinated to go into the restaurants, gyms, bars, or any public places. And there's this big hoopla about, well, people thought there was going to be some sort of medical exemption that would be allowed, but there isn't. Like Tim Pool came out talking about it on his show yesterday.
Well, we're
So he
just
was
not
literally
gonna.
calling the cities and the councils and lawyers, and they were all just like, "No, we're not even going to talk about it."
Yeah, we're just not gonna have to go to any of those places. Then we're gonna
Yeah.
have to create our own little society outside of society, and I
Or
think that's what's gonna
entertainment
happen.
and restaurants.
And I also think there needs to be a little bit of a pushback too, which is sort of like a hashtag don't ask, don't tell. Like if there was something you could come up with that was better than that, which is the idea, like I'll stand with the people who don't want to get it. And I'm not going to tell you whether I have it or not because it's none of your business, right? Like so that we start getting a lot of people, because part of the division right now is an us versus them, but there's always a middle ground that are standing for the principle whether or not they agree in the practice, right? Because the principle is bigger than the practice. So I think that I'm waiting for it. I think like don't ask, don't tell is too like that's too long, right? But just maybe hashtag don't ask kind of thing, right? It's like that's where I fall. So I'll stand with my brothers and sisters who are making a choice for their life one way or another, and I don't think you have a right to ask them.
I'm for personal freedom. People
Right.
should have the freedom to choose their own path, their own health, and they shouldn't be prohibited from participating in society because of it. The people that take the vaccine, they don't really have anything to lose as much as the people who don't want to put this untested long-term chemical in their body. We're we're the ones getting it forced upon us with our participation in society being held hostage, right? So the other side, they already have the government, big pharma, Fauci, and all those other people speaking for them, telling everybody else to vaccinate, mandating it in countries like Australia. So this is a push against personal freedom right here. And I really think that right there is at what's at the forefront of what I'm trying to defend, or what we're trying to defend here. It's like, look, if you want to choose to take the vaccine, that should be your right. But if you, at the same time, your fear shouldn't be able to have you completely lock down an entire fucking society.
Yeah, I guess I'm very much I'm like, look, don't even walk on my property if my property is going to bother you, and whatever I do in my home is up to me as long as I'm not hurting somebody. And
Yeah.
that basically means I also get the choice what I put in my body or don't. I
Yep.
think I've told you before, like I haven't got the vaccine. I don't care. I've lived a good life. I've got that great life. If this thing were to kill me, like I've lived a good life. Like I'm okay. I mean, death is a natural thing. I'm not gonna just go out and try to have it. And but yeah, I have a real issue that we are creating a culture of command, right? It's a real problem that we have a large contingent of people actually believing that they have the right to force their beliefs upon another person and require us not only to have things, but like they literally want us to start using the exact words, right? It's like when you say something, if you don't say it exactly properly woke, it's also problematic.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue itself because like, look, I mean, my voice, my way of speaking, it doesn't get any more individualized than that, right? Each of us, that's what makes us an individual, is our own struggle to put into words what we're trying to think in our heart, right? And it's like, no, that if we don't allow that to be real, I mean, what is humanity?
I know. And what timing too for like what's going on with the Taliban and stuff, and like how they oppress people with their own views. And like, I don't know, it's just kind of a crazy time where like that's being freed, that's a space that's being opened up again, and like all around the world, like this is just being this oppressive behavior. Let go of your rights and let us control you.
So something's unplugged, so if I die, I know what's happening there. Anyways, with that, I guess the one thing I keep turning back to is the good news is we win. Freedom always wins. Liberty always wins. It's just you cannot kill the human desire for personal agency. You can't.
It is.
It always rises up.
Nature always wins.
Yeah.
You got to keep
Yeah.
your consciousness strong. Like really be in that space, like working, whatever you're doing is just really being in that consciousness zone and actually walking forward and making that energy, pushing for what you want, no matter whether you're in a position where you're about to die. Like I just feel like I'd go out like trying to stand up for what is right.
Yeah, it's the whole idea. Like if you found something for your life, which you were to sit there and go, I stake my claim that this is me. And then as somebody threatened you with death, you said, I'll become something else. Well, that's okay. It's completely understandable. But you're always going to be questioning yourself, right? It's like nobody goes out to try to be a martyr, but you need to sort of be willing to be a martyr. Oh, hey, I have a storm coming in, so I might cut this short here. That's what I'm watching. So hey, real quick.
I'd rather be a martyr than a bitch. No.
Yeah, no, 100%, right? I mean, like, I'm the guy that's like, look, if you're going to take over everything, just leave me with my little plot of land here. If you guys want my peanut butter and jelly, I'll bring you sandwiches. Like, I'll actually care for you. I'm not going to try to take you out, but just let me live. It's like, I don't look at that as being a bitch. That's like saying, all right, I can serve other people, but you also still need to allow me to be me.
Yeah, I'm saying the people that could just completely back down and they're just like, you know what?
No.
I'm just going to completely, Daddy, please protect me from the big bad things coming to get me.
No, we just bought more ammo last week. What are you kidding?
Yeah, no, yeah. But the fact is, that's the majority of people out there right now. Whether it doesn't matter what side it's on, they all have their hero that they're looking to come and save them instead of saving themselves. And I don't think the world really works like that. When you give your power to somebody else, they're going to hold that over you. There hasn't been a time where it's been shown any different. I want to be free. I don't want to give my power to anybody.
So, hey, I wanted to ask you about that the pirate contract real quick. I have a thought on that, and I don't know if you've run across anybody who's doing development on pirate yet, but I'm thinking like this. You say the game to start with, and Tim, I haven't talked to you about this yet, but I was actually thinking about creating what did I call it? Oh shoot, I just lost it. Oh, a cloud bridge. And the cloud bridge would basically be the three currencies would go with pirate, BSV, and Cardano, and good reason for those three. That would also then have just a data bridge back to the cloud services, and we could start to build, like you're saying, like a DeFi game around that, or yield farm around that once those smart contracts are there. But if you do run across any of the developers on Pirate, like an introduction would be great. And I think that this might be something that's doable sooner rather than later.
Yeah. The only thing about the pirate, we need to look into it a little bit more because it's actually wrapped pirate chain on the Ethereum network, and you know about Ethereum fees.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and that was my concern when you mentioned it. I was like, well,
yeah, I'm like, I thought it was actually R that had DeFi coming to it and smart contracts coming to it, but that's just going to be wrapped R, which that brings up the question, is it even going to be anonymous if it's on the Ethereum network?
Right. And
Probably
I mean,
not.
it would be anonymous once it came back, right? It would probably just put into a pool when it came back. And I think that that's what I'm looking to do, is create the ability to, I'll go out, I'll be trackable when I want to be trackable, by whom I want to be trackable, and I'll store the value where I want it private, right? I don't care if I have a car sitting out in my driveway. Okay, they got a car. Great. So I don't mind if some of my assets are sitting on Cardano or available and I trade them. It's like, that's fine. I do that with my credit card right now. I don't feel the need to hide. How about this? I don't feel the need to hide anything. I just have the right to do it. and I think we should have the right to do it, that we should have the right to put those assets where we want it, to get those done. But so you're not so Pirate then does not have smart contracts then.
Pirate itself doesn't have smart contracts, but wrapped Pirate that's coming to the Ethereum network will.
Yeah. Now, how far have you, like, so what is it about Pirate over Monero? I've started reading about the zero knowledge snarks, that piece of it. And I mean, it doesn't sound like there's huge difference between Monero and Pirate.
They just uncovered some newly found Monero bug.
Okay.
That basically it was recently, let's see, July 26th. Potential is a new bug with potential to expose users' transactions, right? Was spotted in Monero pretty recently. The developers are going to, it's a Monero bug breaks transaction privacy. So there was a significant bug that was found. They have to go fix it, which is actually very good for Monero,
right?
Because that means that Monero is going to increase their security and increase their privacy, right? But basically, I forget exactly what it was. I think if you sent it and then you sent it back out within 30 seconds or something like that, it would make it so that your transaction was transparent, visible by everybody. So, I mean, that's not good on a privacy blockchain.
Right. 100%. All right, I'll do a little bit more digging into Pirate then and see like where they stand on blockchain. I mean, like, is it going to be like Cardano? Could you actually just write like some sort of a command line prompt that you would be able to call, and it's not necessarily a smart contract in the way that they are on Ethereum? But yeah, if you run across developers on Pirate,
they're in the Telegram. If you go to the Pirate Chain Telegram, they're usually in there. I believe they're also on the Facebook group. There are 2 Pirate Chain Facebook groups. You should have Ben invite you to the real one. I think Ben's still a moderator in the real one.
The one with like 900 members as opposed to the one with like 2,000. Because the new one is the real one.
The new one is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Ben did invite me, and I think I've got the new one. I've been following that whoever Stephen Page was got kicked off the other one, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah,
You need to
so
get on their Discord, Chuck. Their developer, his name is Drath and Tim, I believe. And I think there's one more. I've actually
Cax.
met, okay, Cax. I've
Cax,
met with
yeah.
Drath. You can probably get a meeting with Drath if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, they interviewed me for moderator and then they added me to moderator for the new one. So,
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll jump onto their Discord.
yeah.
Oh, hey, so another so we started using VDO for our podcast. Have you played with that at all?
What is it?
So VDO is a free peer-to-peer piece of software that somebody wrote to connect directly to OBS. So we tonight invited all our people who are going to be guests, and they came into a room, like the Zoom or everything else. And then Tim was able to pull the stream directly into OBS, and each person could come in as individual streams through OBS by using this video thing. So it's in some ways like a Zoom meeting, but you get to put it right out through your OBS.
Where'd you find that? Where did you find that, sir?
It's what is it, Tim? Video Ninja?
VDO.NINJA, Video Ninja.
Yeah, it sounds like, if you do a little bit of digging, it sounds like the guy who wrote this was just playing with OBS, and he was like, yeah, I got bored and I had some work to do. So he started writing this little platform completely free. And tonight it worked really well. We had a little bit of a bug when I was trying to do some screen sharing, playing video, and had my, all of my stream going. So we're going to play with that a little bit. But yeah, it was interesting. It's definitely a way. I mean, we're trying to get less and less platform dependent, right? Yeah. And that's kind of why we went to Signal and the Telegrams, right? And even on these pieces, to me, anything that we can go through that's more peer-to-peer is just likely to remain available longer.
Yeah, we were practicing on Monday using Discord and trying to pull each individual stream in the Discord. So I think right before you got on, we were actually talking about possibly doing a stream twice per week. On our Monday and Thursdays. We were thinking, hey, we should stream our podcast with Chuck through our own stream, and then he could stream his as well. That should be our Thursday stream.
And actually, if you guys wanted to, I can set up through our we use Caster, and I can set up to send to multiple output streams. So we send to YouTube and Facebook, and I can, so right from our one OBS stream, I can send it to multiple platforms. We could just add you as another one that we add to that feed.
Nice. Yeah, let's work on that.
Yeah, I mean that's fun for us because it just helps us. We're building out part of the build out that we're doing right now is we're actually building out the production solution in our software, which so we have our segments that we go through, and we're beginning to set all that up. So ultimately, we're working toward having our software to be able to do it through peer-to-peer, but I don't know how far we'll take it. But yeah, so if you want to do that, that would actually be helpful to us to kind of make some connections and have some fun with it.
I'm actually planning to try to actually implement some of the video stuff directly into the system, so that way it would just be such a seamless transition. You wouldn't have to worry about where you're broadcasting or anything. That would just all be controlled right through OBS, but still pulled in through our platform.
Nice. Let's work on that during the week here.
Okay.
Sounds good. Hit me up.
Let's do
it. Yeah, Tim, yeah, that'll be these. And I think I'm like Facebook friends with all you. Ben, you shared something about Rune, and we've got that image. I've got the image somewhere. I was just curious to ask you about it. So do any of you guys, I'm having fun. I don't know if any of y'all saw on Facebook, I shared, I'm writing this, what we're calling a chain story. It's a fictional chain story called Designer Human. And it's a lot of fun where it actually takes on this whole idea of the realities of transhumanism and all the stuff that's going on. And I'm basically just taking the entire mask vaccine debate, twisting it to transhumanism and having so, and I'm having so much fun writing this because when you it's all the stuff you want to say, and because it's fiction you can say it, but yeah, we're gonna have a little transhuman activity here at some point in time.
Uh,
Not literally. I am fully sort of against transhumanism, but hope nobody here wants to be a transhuman. I'm sorry. Have any of you
no,
actually like taken time to research that and
I
understand
have
it?
I'm
recently, yeah, yeah.
So what are your
yeah,
thoughts on it?
I'm about organic humans and trying to stay as organic as possible.
Yeah.
My belief
Yeah.
is that nature has already been perfecting us organic beings for as long as it has. And, you know, um, there was a time when we were way healthier than we are now. We need to get back to that time, living how we used to live, the way that we evolved. I believe in evolution, and I can see the path of evolution, and I can see, for example, bonobo apes. We are 98% the same as a bonobo ape,
I
chimpanzees, etc. We're
think we're
closer to a bonobo.
95% a tree, right? I mean,
Well,
almost all of it, right? I mean, all living DNA is extraordinarily similar.
well, we're closer to the bonobo ape than the Indian elephant is to the African elephant. You know what
That's
I mean?
interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting little tidbit. So these apes are very highly sexed apes, and what they do is where chimpanzees will fight over a new food source, right? They'll get there, they'll start fighting over it. The bonobos will have a straight up orgy. They'll find a new food source, they'll all start engage. The hyper excitement will have them all engage in sexual activity, and then they'll have communal feeding. They'll use sex as a way to reconcile arguments. Like straight up, the women will bump boxes basically when they're having a problem with each other. The males will turn around, rub scrotums. Like they use sex as a way of greeting, as a way of conflict reconciliation, as a way of bonding. It's fucking insane. And this is our closest relative, right? Closer than even chimps are to us, or closer than any of the other higher primates are to us. It, just some interesting stuff. And then you can see within ancient humans, there was different things that they all had all around the world. They all shared specific type of features where they lived all apart from each other. That would come down to dietary choices. They ate way more natural foods than we do, right? We have a bunch of chemicals in all of our foods. We have way more meat, way more fat, way more stuff than our ancestors were eating. They had a way bigger variety of foods. They're spending way more time in nature. Their sexual relationship. Oh, you're getting a storm out there. I just saw some
Yeah,
lightning.
that one came close.
There's a study. If you I was searching it, I found it when I was searching about polygyny, polygamy, monogamy, etc. It's on the polyandry pit. Wait, yeah, polyandry. So it's on the Wikipedia page where it's one female to several males. Well, it says they did a study on over 1,000 prehistorical tribes, and over 97% of them were polygynous, one male to several females. There was 1.8 or 1.9%, something like that, that were monogamous, and then there was like 0.3% that were polyandrous, where there was one female to several males. Now they said the reason for this is because that's how you mitigate risk in a foraging context. When you have males hunting, you have hunting gathering tribes, you have males going off to hunt, males warring, etc. There's going to be more males dying than females. For every female to mate and have a pair, there's going to be having to be multiple mates paired to the males, right? So this is just kind of woven into our DNA. Very interesting book called Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan.
Well,
But it
I'm going to tell you, after 30 years of marriage, I think it's woven into my DNA that one woman is more than enough of a challenge, but I'm happy for that I have one.
well, see that
I
they're
could
not
do for
saying that
more
it
than
was.
one man. I don't think that just one could ever really satisfy what I require in a partner. I think that's
What's that?
why I've been single for 4 years now, because no man is good enough. They just, man,
Fair
they just
enough.
I
aren't.
think people are kind of cut
Maybe
off
it's
when
just
it
these
comes.
guys here in Oregon.
I think people connecting in relationships in general are just like really struggling because they're not even really like questioning their own being and like actually being completely honest. Like It's
Yeah.
all been kind of distorted. Every time I've tried to date or come across something, it's just people are having to really work on a lot of things that I don't even know if they know how to or if they even realize.
Right.
So
They feel very immature.
yeah, one
See,
of the things I think that our culture is teaching us is to be proud of our hypocrisy. And that's exactly like when you get into a relationship and everybody's got that little nugget inside of them, that's the ugly side of me, that's the side I don't want the world to see. And when I have to look at it, I don't want to see it. But when my hypocrisy makes me look at it, now I have to project that outward, right? So it's this idea that we live in a culture that wants us to live inside of our hypocrisy, and that keeps relationships apart, which is very like it's challenging because none of us my favorite band ever is called Blue October. Great song called Ugly Side from back in the day, right? And I think it just perfectly speaks to that. We all have an ugly side, there's no doubt about it. But none of us like to live and acknowledge that the ugly side is still there even after we think we got rid of it. And we get into these relationships, and once you get really deep, and again, 30 years, I mean, once you get really, really deep, there's always another part, and it's like I don't want to keep going back into that ugly side, but every time I do go into the ugly side, it gets cleaner and it gets better.
I see the way I feel about relationships, because I was with my kid's mom for 7 years, and just I've been through a lot of different shit. I feel that modern relationships are actually more a form of codependency than they are actual love. The majority of relationships out there, people think that, hey, you know what we're supposed to do? Argue every day and fight and do this and do
Right.
that and be at each
Right.
other's throats and be in each
Right.
other's business all the fucking time. And that's not what it's supposed to be like. And they have taught us from a young age that's how relationships are, and it's just normal, and you got to work on it, and it's tough work and it's hard. Well, what if it's just because it's literally not supposed to be like that? It goes against our nature as humans to actually do that because we've evolved in a certain way. They say, even though we can eat McDonald's every single day and our body would eventually reject it, we could survive off of it, but our body has its inherent needs, it has its inherent wants. And if you've evolved for X amount of years in a certain way, and now you're put in this oppositional relationship where you're just constantly at each other's throats, you've evolved in a tribal sense as well. I mean, we evolved in tribes and communities, overlapping sexual relationships, pair bonding, yes, but not just like, oh, monogamy from the young ripe age of a teenager. That wasn't how our DNA works. So it puts us into these relationships where we're constantly at each other's throats, because it, in my opinion, is unnatural to us. We don't belong in those types of situations. We belong in tribes, and allowing these. I'm also a relationship anarchist. I believe that every relationship should fall where it lies. Some people, you're going to have uh feelings towards them of other types. Some people you're not, and it's just okay to accept that for exactly what it is and let it fall where it lies. So many people shut themselves down to other people because, oh, I'm in a relationship. Well, if you it doesn't make you wrong if you are in love with someone and bonded to them, and then you start growing feelings for somebody else. That's woven in our DNA. They teach us, oh, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with this. So people just shut themselves down. They feel shame, they feel embarrassment. No, that's just being a human. That's literally who we are. You can be madly in love with someone and still be attracted to a very attractive person of the opposite sex, or even of the same sex if you're like that. The fact is, it doesn't make you wrong, it doesn't make you bad. That is who human beings are and how we are. People shut themselves down, they lie to themselves, they lie to their mate, they hide from themselves, they try to not reflect that side of themselves. But it's like, why why are we shutting our own selves down, stifling ourselves in order to keep up this idea that we have in our head that we're supposed to be a certain way? No one ever said anything is the right way. It's all culturally based. If you go to different cultures, they have completely different ideas about sex than we do. I was showing Ben this TED talk by Christopher Ryan, the guy I was telling you about the book. It is called Are Humans Sexual Omnivores? And it was talking about a tribe in the Amazon who believe that a child is literally accumulated sperm. So if they want a child that's got these different essences of these different men. They want a funny guy, a smart guy, and a this guy. They got to have sex with all of those guys all through pregnancy. And they do, right? And then the men step forward and they all claim paternity over this child. Like it's a group endeavor. There's a tribe in, I
That
forget
would
where it
kind of
is.
make sense too if you think about it. Then in a lot of new age spirituality, they think that if, say, a man and a woman have sex, that the man, when he puts his seed in the woman, that that essence can leave a mark on the woman for up to 7 years. And that's where the whole thing of like it takes 7 years for a woman to be a virgin again. It's not an actual physical thing. It's like an essence mark.
Yeah. So yeah, partible paternity down there. It goes along with that. And then you have the what does he say? The Mosuo in China, where basically they have hundreds of partners. The women are completely sexually autonomous, no one gossips, they don't have monogamous relationships. It's all a culturally based thing. Our culture has fed us through the religious ideals that we all grew up in, Judaism and Christianity usually, and the traditions and all these things, that this is the only way, this is supposed to be normal. But all around the world, cultures, tribes, and all sorts of different peoples practice different sexual beliefs, different relationship beliefs, and are just fine. There's cultures that don't even have a term for jealousy, right? When it comes to mate, sexual jealousy. So our culture has trained us in a very specific form of relationships that to me reflects codependency. It's more of an ownership mentality.
Well,
Me
but
and
I think that there is something to be said about codependency. I mean, we would call it co-interdependency, and that's truly how the healthiest communities are going to exist, right? I mean, I can't really build a strong community if everybody is focused on solely being themselves. There is a reliance that has to exist between us, that I can at least trust something between us to be what it is. Otherwise, there's no infrastructure, and that infrastructure is the relationship, which is greater than one person or two people. So I think that I mean, while I think you're making a lot of good points, and I think you're right. How much is dealt with culture? I think one of the things you still have to wrestle with is truth, and a whole bunch of humans like don't want to don't think that truth exists, and that's fine. That's a conversation. But if there's no truth, then there's no justice. And what are we pursuing when we're talking about like this pure life? So it's almost like we all know there's this thing which is truth, which does transcend all of us in some capacity. So I think that there's more than just culture which drives mankind. There's truly a desire for the realization of what we know exists but can't quite hold on to yet. It's like we're always out after something that is out there. And I think that it's challenging to think that things are only evolutionary. I mean, I don't believe that. I can't
I don't
really
either.
wrap my head around the concept that everything, came from nothing. I mean, it gets into the whole idea. I wrote a thing one time called, evolutionary sarcasm. It's like, bang, nothing exploded and nothing said to everything.
Evolution doesn't deny a god.
No, no. I get, no. I'm only speaking to the pure, like, okay, I guess
No,
to
you can literally see evolution in front of your face. In 10,000 years, we were able to take a wolf and breed it into so many different breeds of dogs. We're able to take things like bananas and breed the seeds out of them. If you've ever seen a banana with its actual seeds, they're like that freaking big. We've been able to breed it out of them. That right there is literally evolution, adaptation to your environment. All
well,
it
I
would
think
take.
I don't know that that's evolution, as
Well,
evolution as
think about it.
Darwin's
Think of,
evolution.
think
I mean,
about it
yeah,
like this. Think about it like this. You have apes,
right.
if we evolved from apes, you have one certain type of ape that evolved the intelligence through some sort of catalyst in order to start having fires, tools, etc. If you have fires to cook your food, you no longer need omnivorous teeth, sharp
Right.
ass teeth. You no longer need fur. You're keeping warm. You're smart enough to make clothes now. You no longer need the fur to keep warm. You no longer need the tail from the trees. It completely drives the idea that adaptation to the environment is really what evolution is all about. It doesn't mean that we started from nothing and just started from this primordial slime and just started oozing up to everything. It means that as our intelligence increased, we were able to leave behind some of the artifacts of our previous endeavors, and you can see transitions coming. I mean, like I said, you can look at different animal species or different plant species, and you can see that we have purposely made them adapt to their environment in different ways. We took seeds from the largest tomatoes or apples, and we planted those, and it grew even larger ones. So we took the largest seeds from those, and on and on and on and on.
And
If you
for
do it with
clarity,
humans,
for clarity, that's adaptation, which I think is absolutely certain. I think evolution is the changing of one species into another, and we have absolutely no proof of that. I mean, we keep looking for a species that changed, and they don't have
have you
the
ever heard
species.
of you ever heard of Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory?
Stone ape theory? No.
The stoned ape theory of evolution. So basically, right, linking the DNA of these bonobos and all these things that we're very closely related to back in the past 200,000 years ago. You can link all this to Africa with climate change and everything, but his theory is that climate change drove the apes out of the trees to go explore new types of foods. And one of these types of foods that they were eating was bugs. They were following around these cow herds, these ungulate herds, he called them, the cow ancestors. And they were basically lifting up cow shit and eating bugs out of the cow shit. Well, he says, what grows out of cow shit but mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms? So he says that these apes, our ancestors, started experimenting with psychedelic mushrooms, and at very low doses, it increases your visual acuity, it increases your hearing, it increases your sex drive. So the apes that were eating psilocybin in low doses were outbreeding, out eating the competition. Now he says in very high doses, we all know what it does: ego dissolution, free thought, etc., etc. So at lower doses, they were living better and breeding better. And at higher doses, they were literally evolving free thought and evolving their will, evolving their spirituality and consciousness. And that is why you see only one specific type of ape evolve beyond to human, whereas the rest of apes, the rest of primates stayed as the lower apes because they didn't have the specific catalysts that drove the higher intelligence of a certain type.
That's interesting.
It is a very interesting theory, and it actually lines up with a lot, like I said, the climate change and everything. Terence McKenna has it all. I mean, he died in 2000, but he was like the psychedelic guru of the 1990s.
So are they still testing the apes? Do they have apes that they're like giving psychedelic drugs to now? Like,
no.
Are we giving
this
apes
is just
DMT and watching them like become
Probably.
enlightened? Can we see this? Is this like science repeatable?
No.
Well, think about this. All of the religious holy books that these elitist occultists sit there and read all have references to psychedelics in them. Yeah. Every single tribe on all of the planet all had a specific psychedelic that they would use to connect to the spirit realm. The shaman would connect, every single one of them. They all would do fasting and thirsting to reach the spirit realm. It would seem that creating a psychedelic trip, a hallucinogenic trip in your brain and going to this other realm seems to be very vital to what is going on with pretty much, like I said, every religion, every tribe. It's written into the history of every single tribe. That's what Terence McKenna did. He was a psychoethnobotanist. He would go around the world studying all of these these old tribes and current tribes, and he would specifically study their psychedelic plant use and shamanism in general. And that's the connection to pretty much every one of these tribes. They all had their specific psychedelic. So the stoned ape theory just goes on to say, through our own experiences and just through what we know this plant can do, that was the specific catalyst that led to the evolution of human consciousness of higher primates. And that's why we have very specific qualities that are shared with a lot of higher primates, such as the way we have sex. Bonobo apes are the only other animal that have missionary position sex. They're the only other animal that's been shown to actually kiss each other with their tongue passionately. Like, oh, we're not even, like, we literally are apes.
I'm pretty sure I saw a dog kiss like that once. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. They're sitting there actually making out as a passionate thing, having missionary sex with each other as humans do. It's not, we sit here and think, oh, we're humans, we're somehow much higher than all these animals, and that right there is biologically incorrect. Like, we tend to put ourselves on this platform just because we have these technologies and these thoughts. And if you really boil it down, what really separates us from those animals? The ability to make tools, the ability to think. If any of them had the ability to think, and if this catalyst that McKenna was talking about is the creation for it, then we're really no different than any other animal besides our interaction with this particular catalyst. And that right there would make us a little bit less dominant over all of the earth and think that we somehow have a place to do what we're doing. We're just another animal that was given a position here that has just slightly a bit more thought than our peers.
Which then would tell you that the people who could think even greater than what we're thinking right now then would be the next evolutionary step. I mean, and that's the argument that you're making right there. Is
and why do you think that psychedelics are Schedule 1 substances in America?
Now,
why do you think opiates and alcohol and all these things that lower your consciousness are legal, and the things that raise your consciousness have been Schedule 1 for years? Weed and psychedelics, when you gave the hippies a bunch of psychedelics, what did they do? Oh, fuck this culture, we're gonna go back to the earth and live like the tribes did. So, to me, that I don't know, that's where we're supposed to, if that right there is the thought that's going to come out of psychedelics, if that is the catalyst, that would explain why they're making it a Schedule 1 substance. It's been shown therapeutic, it's been shown medicinal. It wouldn't make any sense to put it on that level.
So where I was going to go with this though is if we continue down the path that it was psychedelics that made humans evolve from an ape, so it's all just natural evolution, then effectively it's the tech scientists that are the natural selection, the people who should be the ones naturally selecting the humans to go on, right? Because they would say those who have the collective knowledge and the best experience and everything else are the ones who get to kind of decide evolution. And that's kind of what the psilocybin, that argument is saying, is that they got to decide evolution because they had a higher consciousness. And this gets into the conversations into like the Elon Musks of the world, and those that when they talk about AI and they talk about how this is being programmed, that actually, going back to the transhumanism and the AI, that there are many in the science field who believe that it's the natural next step of evolution is for man to determine what man will be, since we now have been so enlightened by a psilocybin that we should be able to.
That's the opposite of psilocybin.
But follow, it's the natural response to it, right? It's we've so elevated ourselves, to your point, like we've so elevated ourselves like to this is what we are, that the natural thing is that we begin to sort of worship knowledge. And once you are the controller of all that is knowledge, you now also have the justification as to why you should be the one who's determining the mankind. And look, I'm not saying I agree with these people by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just taking up their argument for a minute.
That's actually the exact opposite of what psilocybin does. All of these dominator types are not taking psilocybin, and if they were, they would be doing something different.
No. It's not about the psilocybin. It's about the, if you will, that they took the psilocybin and that helped them to understand consciousness
to
in
dominate
a way.
Over us.
Right.
So it's Okay,
Right.
okay. In my personal opinion, and you can label me a conspiracy theorist, they understand that all these religious holy books and all these shamanistic tribes took this substance to connect with the greater force around them, and they utilize it in their own rituals and ceremonies, which they do. You can see that Aleister Crowley and all them, massive amount of psychedelics, but they don't allow us to use it, and they hide the information from us. What would that tell you about it? That it's a very important substance for some reason. Why wouldn't they want the average man to get it? Especially if it helps with depression, helps with anxiety, helps with PTSD. I mean, we can sit here and go on with the list of things it's been therapeutically, scientifically shown to help with. Why make that one a Schedule 1 substance, but alcohol that kills tons of people a year legal? Cigarettes, caffeine, all these different dominator drugs that are great for the economy, but not something that makes people go, you know what? You know what's really important in life? Loving myself and loving my friends and loving nature and getting back to nature and growing my
Right.
consciousness. Oh,
Right. Yeah. I
that's
mean,
the illegal one.
ultimately, I mean, that's 100% right. I mean, it's just a matter of the view of yourself in the world, right? If you view yourself as a contributor to the world by helping the economy remain strong, then you find your identity in helping the economy made strong. And to your point that it doesn't, a person's choices, whether they want to be with 10 people or one person, it doesn't make them good or bad or otherwise. Then we also have to look at the person who is also just choosing their lifestyle. And they're saying it's not good, bad, or otherwise. They're just sort of not recognizing the impact that it's having on others. And in some ways, they're justifying their position now because of all the arguments that have been made before. So it's just one of those things where it's like it's a constant us versus them. And I think it comes down to, I'll say it this way, I think it comes down to the tree of knowledge. We really don't have a clue. Even once you have all of
Yeah.
the knowledge, you still don't have a clue. You just
No,
have to trust.
all we can see is what's in front of us, and we can see right now that there's some sort of group that shows us their symbols. They're connected to pedophilia, they're
Right.
poisoning us in the food supply, they're manipulate, and we can only defend ourselves against those
Right.
things. What's going on behind the scenes as far as the occult belief and the occult worship or any of that, I can't tell you if
Right.
that's real or if that's fake, right? Or even what's going on that side, on the spiritual war side of things. I'm an agnostic.
I mean, I'll be the first one to say that I think that the supernatural, I can't say I think, I'll say I know the supernatural is real, right? I mean, there is something beyond the physical. There is. Now, everybody may have a different name for it and a
Yeah,
different way that they've experienced
definitely.
it. But there is something great. I have a real struggle with the people who deny that a soul exists. Like, I don't know how I'd even know myself if a soul didn't exist, right? I mean, I'd simply be a collection of random processing thoughts and memories, and they wouldn't have meaning and impact in my own life if I didn't have a soul or something. So I can't comprehend people who say there's no soul. I don't get that. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying I don't get that. Um, and then once there's a recognition of a soul, then then all bets are off. There's just a whole another world that is available for our exploration, and whether we go forth in love or we go forth in
Hey,
with
one of
for
my
sake of oppression.
one of my favorite rappers, Idea, he died in 2010. He had an interview where they were asking about energy and they're asking about the afterlife. And he was saying that he thinks the afterlife is actually a creation of the ego because the ego can't imagine itself not existing.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
So
interesting.
yeah, he thinks that the ego has to create this idea of itself in eternity because it couldn't imagine itself just not existing one day.
I almost
And
think
that,
that would be like the heart of nihilism, and that's a really scary
well,
outcome out of that, right?
he wound up dead from an overdose and probably a suicidal. It probably was most likely a self-inflicted overdose, but he was a very deep thinker, and that thought was actually a pretty fucking deep thought. He thought himself to death, it would seem.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but we really don't know if there is an afterlife. See, I'm an agnostic to all these things because really any person's view of an afterlife is a guess. They have never died. they aren't going to really know until they die. And they could have people that have near-death experiences, but there's people with near-death experiences that are exact opposite of, let's say, a Christian person goes and sees all their family members, or a person of this religion goes and sees their religious gods. I mean, I don't know what's after life. None of us do, and none of us will until we die.
Yeah. I will say though that I don't know that it's possible to deny what happened before and what happened after, right? There has been something before and there is something after. It's our consciousness of it in those different states, which kind of comes into play. And I only get there because I've been really starting to dig deeper into the way physics is looking at time. And it's very interesting when you start to, I mean, they're doing some, again, that time is what is responsible for gravity is a whole nother way of thinking about that time actually impacts the physical in ways that we've not thought about before. And then you can work back through quantum mechanics. And it's interesting. These questions and these thoughts are super interesting and long rabbit trails to go down, which are all sorts of fun. But
they're fun for a bit, and I used to chase them all day, and it wouldn't get me any closer to the actual permaculture. You know what I mean? Because
that's right.
A lot of them don't have answers. A lot of them really the answer is straight up accepting mystery. Right? We're not going to
100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's actually just being completely okay with mystery and carrying love in your heart.
Yep. So I've accepted that a lot of the answers aren't answerable to our current state as a human, but we could spend that same energy that we focus on these rabbit holes, because there's tons of rabbit holes, and we could spend all that energy coming together for permaculture, to create a better society, to plant food forests everywhere, to monetize, to get money, to do this and actually make an impact in the world. But
now that's kind of where it gets fun, because like we could sit around and ponder the universe while partaking of some psilocybin, whatever. I always say it wrong. Psilocybin. We can ponder the world. We can ponder the world and like, okay, but then all of a sudden we also recognize, as you were just saying, that effectively pondering the world doesn't do much for us, right?
Well,
it's like that we actually have to put it.
We should be able to, but all of us are so scattered through having to work and do this and do that, and we don't have the time and energy to. And I think that I would love to do that, but once we get to our permaculture, we should all sit out there together around the fire, playing guitar and talking about all these thoughts together.
Yeah, no, I'm waiting for, actually, I keep telling myself one of these days I'm going to try, is it peyote? Is that the
peyote?
Is that I don't know. I that's the one I heard that is kind of, but the mushrooms are the one that
get peyote. You can get legal peyote has mescaline in it. Mescaline is the psychedelic substance, but San Pedro cactus is literally the same exact substance, and it's legal. You can buy it at most Home Depots, different stores. It's a cactus. It grows when you cut it. It's like a six-sided star. It looks like a Star of David. And you put it in the blender. You got to do I forget the exact method, but if you go online, you could look up the extraction.
I'll just wait for the day that I'm out in some desert and doing it under the night sky. There's like certain places you're supposed to do that, right? All right, well, hey, thanks for having us on again tonight, and definitely follow up with Tim about the video stuff, and then we'll connect again next week.
All right, definitely. You guys have a good night.
Thank you, pirates. Be well.
Arr.
Arr.
Bye.